Hello, my name is Garrett. This is my video series on how I'm trying to grow out of rock bottom and become a better version of myself. For anyone who hasn't seen any of the previous videos, a very brief description of what rock bottom was in my life. Since 13, I have developed addictive tendencies and a very compulsive side of myself. That started with a porn addiction that escalated over a decade now. A lot of other behaviors got mixed in, and it just became this conglomerate of personality that avoided discomfort and chased instant gratification in order to cover up my emotions and run away from life. And it's escalated to the point, porn's always been the kind of center of it. It's been the worst behavior, the one that is most destructive, and it escalated to the point that I was compulsively visiting escorts, both trans and cis female, which I grew up very religious, so that was, there was a subconscious level of shame that was like, I did not know how to handle. For about a year, I was in and out of binging with visiting escorts, and yeah, it just reached a point where I was somewhat frequently thinking about killing myself because I did not really see an end in sight. Um, that was about a year and a half ago, where I was like really kind of at my lowest and just like coasting there. I have definitely made a lot of progress since that point. Uh, Not as much as I would have liked to think about a month ago. Um, yeah, if anyone watching this did watch the last few weeks, the last month has been pretty terrible. Or the last videos at least. The time included in those last videos was awful. Almost I'd say rock bottom again. In terms of mental health, at least behaviors weren't necessarily as bad, but my mental health was probably worse than it had ever been. Um, Compared to that, I'm doing, I think, a lot better. I'm still not really doing good, I would say, but I'm doing a lot of processing at least, and I am taking steps forward. Uh, and I think hovering between stagnation and slow progression is a lot better than drowning and regression. And that's what I was doing. So, just looking at the numbers for the week and a half, or last 2 weeks. Um, Again, they aren't good, especially with work. Uh, I quit my main job, um, for a variety of reasons, and that was my main source of structure and stability. And there's a lot of things I could be doing for work right now. I'm not going to pretend like, oh, not having this job and waiting for uh, something to happen at my next job is that's not a valid reason, because there's a lot of work on progress theory I could be doing. There's a lot of additional work that I know I want to do, but I'm just avoiding. So that's still not good. I'm still not performing well there at all. Um, Sorry, this is where it starts. Financially, obviously, if I'm not working, I'm not making money. And when I'm not working, I tend to spend more money. So that's been pretty terrible as well. Still, there has been a increase in my habits. I mean, it got to the point where they were non-existent. Um, and this first week right here, week 3 of June, I started to do a lot of processing. I went and visited a friend. Um, this was, yeah, a day or two after the last video that I made. I went and visited a friend for about a week, talked with him a lot about what was going on, journaled a lot, distracted myself in healthier ways, and I think started to really feel the emotion of everything I've been going through, both with like my breakup and all of the spiraling. which both of those just cause a lot of pain and negative emotion. Um, so I didn't, numbers wise, it wasn't an exceptional week by any means, but I started, especially with the porn, while I was out there, I really started getting some space from that and doing a lot of processing. This week has been better. I shifted some of the habits that I was doing. And work wise, it still hasn't been great, but I've started overcoming some urges. I haven't been perfect with it. I've watched some porn, but habits have been better. And the main thing has just been legitimate processing. Um, I think I've talked about it before, but when I'm spiraling with behaviors, I just enter a headspace where I don't want to feel anything. I don't want to think about anything because when I think about it, I feel terrible. And so every behavior I do is just what's the most gratifying thing I can do right now that will numb out my emotions and disconnect me from reality so that I don't have to think about life. I can just pretend like it isn't real. I can just escape. Uh, and so there isn't any real processing going on. I think I compulsively engage in activities that uh, lower me to a lesser level of consciousness. And as much as I like quantifiably, I'm still not doing very well. I don't look at those numbers with pride necessarily. Um, there's no denying that I've done a lot of journaling and talked with a lot of people, and I think I understand myself and my behavior and the roots of my behavior more clearly now than I ever have. Um, and I think there's been more substantial change in my understanding in the last week and a half than there ever has. Uh, and for that reason, this video is not going to be as long because in the last few videos, I mean, they got up to like, I think 30 minutes in an hour or 40 minutes an hour or something, which I don't necessarily have a problem with that long of content, but for this video series, that's not what I'm going for. The reason it got to that point is because that was the only processing I was doing. So that was just me trying to work through the fact that like I was actively wanting to kill myself. And I think I needed it. I needed to process, and this just was the one thing I did that just got me talking. Um, there's no there's been a lot of processing, and I'm not going to try to go through it all in this video. But the main thing I want to talk about, I think, the thing that's caused the absolute rupture in my sense of identity is just a clear awareness that the core drive from everything I've done and who I've been has been built on this foundation of I'm not good enough and I need to earn my right to exist. Like I deserve to suffer if I'm not an exceptional human being. And something I've talked about in these videos is all I really have to go off of right now is my own experience and other people's to some degree, but I think I tend to generalize my experience onto other people and assume if it's happening to me, then this is just a part of the human experience and it's probably something other people struggle with as well. And I think that's probably sometimes true, but not always. And so a core belief like this is probably not something everyone deals with. I'm sure there's different core beliefs. There's different foundational identity struggles that people have to deal with, and a lot of them probably aren't related to I'm not good enough and I will never be good enough and I need to be perfect in order to have any value. But I think a lot of people probably do struggle with that feeling. And it's not something I was completely unaware of. Like I've recognized this for years. Uh, I mean, I would say since I was 21, I'm 25 now. I became aware of this, like how much of my drive to be extraordinary was rooted in insecurity and a feeling of inadequacy and worthlessness. Uh, and it took a couple years for me to register that okay, awareness does not actually equal change. It's still there. In the last 2 years, I there have just been various points where I've kind of uh, through processing and journaling found a paradigm shift that I think is uh, going to be the catalyst for major change. Uh, I think the reality is it self awareness only goes so far. Like self awareness does not change what's there. Um, True foundational identity change takes a long time, especially, I mean, at this point, who I am is a result of 25 years of programming. This idea that there's going to be some shift in awareness or some activity I can do that's just going to fundamentally change who I am is unrealistic. It's just not how the human brain works. I do think legitimate foundational identity change is possible. But I think it is a process that takes years of effort and uh, your environment and your experience has to reach a point where it's validating and embedding the identity that you're trying to build. It can't just be a self delusional instilling of new beliefs. Um, and so right now, where I'm at, I honestly feel extremely disoriented and discombobulated and like scared. And I think for the last year and a half, I was aware of this core belief driving everything. I was aware of where it stemmed from to some degree. Like, what was the thing in my childhood or the series of events that created this belief about myself? And I was aware of how it had impacted me in the near past. But I think two things. I conflated that awareness with change, and I also got into a relationship where, for the first time ever, someone else's love held me up. Someone else covered all that shame and self hatred up because they loved me and they believed in me and they made me feel like I am worthy of love and I can feel okay about myself. And I took that to mean I'd changed. And I, until I lost that relationship, saw that I didn't see where that was actually coming from. I didn't see how the core beliefs and core wounds had not been healed at all. Um, and so yeah, I became convinced that I was a healthier version of myself, that my perspective was better, and I was this obsession with growth that I still had, and this obsession with changing the world was built on this healthier version of my personality. And to some degree it was. I don't think everything I believed was flawed, but I don't know what was flawed and what wasn't because I'm seeing more clearly than ever that the entire foundation I've built my identity on is poisonous. And will lead to a life where I am never good enough and no one else is ever good enough, and it'll just be a life of chasing bigger and bigger accomplishments, and bigger acts of service in the world in order to try to fill this hole in myself, in order to try to convince myself that I deserve to exist. And I never will. Because it reached a point in my mind where, in order to earn my right to exist, I I needed to fulfill this delusional, fantastical sense of potential I had of changing the world, of positively impacting the lives of billions of people. And that was the bar. That was the standard in my mind. I didn't really tell people that. I wasn't open about it because it seems very egotistical and self-aggrandizing and delusional. Uh, and it is to some extent. I mean, I think vision is delusion until it's actualized. Uh, but that was the bar. That was the standard. Where in the back of my mind, I wouldn't openly say it, but I pretty much believed like, in order for my life here to have value, and in order for me to feel okay about myself, I need to become someone who changes the world and uh, pushes humanity farther than anyone ever has. And that is just a ridiculous amount of pressure uh, and delusional pressure to put on myself. Um, yeah, this video is a little all over the place, and I think that's it represents very well where my mind is right now. Because I haven't integrated everything. I think there's just been a lot of thinking. There's been a lot of. I'm just looking back on everything from my relationship to my own behavior and my own thought processes, and seeing it all through a very different lens. And there's been a lot of shifts in perspective. There's been a lot of trying to work through things, but not a lot of integration yet. And my head's just all over the place. And I'm questioning every belief I've ever held deeply. I have ideas for how to move forward from here, but I don't know. I don't trust anything. It's like the entire foundation of who I am and what I believe about the world has been built on this foundation that I have to destroy. And it's hard for me not to how to it's all going to come crashing down is what it feels like. Everything was built on this. If I remove the foundation, it all crumbles. And it's terrifying to me. I don't know who I am without this drive, because it's the only thing that's ever made me feel okay. It's this belief that I can be exceptional if I do the right things and I shape myself correctly. Is the only thing that's ever made me feel like maybe I can be happy. And it's really, really hard for me to give that up. But I also understand that it's that underlying belief that's fueling it is the exact reason that I need it to feel happy. Like, if I build if I build my identity on the idea that I'm okay as I am, like I don't have to earn my right to exist. I can accept what happens in my life and in the universe, and I don't have to change it and control everything in order to feel okay. Then I can just feel okay, I think. Um, I'm excited about where I go from here because I do think uh, I think I've said this numerous times in the past, which is again just fuels the distrust. I've had paradigm shifts, and I think this is it, and this is going to be the catalyst for major change. And then I always look back and I'm like, yeah, I changed, but it wasn't, I didn't arrive. And I do know that I'll never arrive. Like, it's become more and more clear to the point where I can't lose sight of that. But I think it's still there. There's this feeling right now of I feel horrible, I feel terrified, but I think this will be a moment I'll look back on where I really did fundamentally change. And the way I feel about myself and the way I show up in the world can be very positively affected by the struggle I'm currently in. But it also feels a little reminiscent of that thought process of this is it. I've found the answer, and I'll never find the answer. The answer is not there. I'll look back on myself right now and see how foggy my perspective was. Just like I'm currently looking back on myself 6 months ago and seeing how foggy the perspective was. But I am excited. I think I will be a significantly healthier person, and I think my ability to do right by other people will improve substantially for this recent spiral and the pain I'm currently feeling. So yeah, that is it for this week. I appreciate anyone who takes the time to watch this, as always. And I hope that there's something in this that you can take to help you find some growth in your life, help make you feel a little better about yourself. But yeah, I will wish you the best until next week.